to another episode of the Daily Wisdom Words podcast, where each week we talk to guests who have stories, advice, life hacks, all of which take you one step closer to that feeling of hope. I'm your co-host, Neil Torretti.
And I am also your co-host, Rini O'Day.
And this week, it took a little bit of, back and forth emails, but we finally have someone I was looking forward to for so many weeks, and I've been following her on Instagram. We have Dr. Onalee with us. Hey, Dr.
Hi,
Onalee.
Dr. Onalee.
Hello. Thank you. Yes, I am glad.
Dr. Onalee, what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Before we get into how this journey of yours began on social media and your practice in the mental health community, one of the things I know that has become your motto is coming home with the unique spelling, shall we say. So let's start by that, defining what exactly is coming home according to you.
Yeah, I love it. The spelling too.
Put your hands over your ears.
The spelling. So the spelling has the O-M capitalized in the middle of the word home. And something that's meaningful to me is my initials are actually O-M, Onalee Makam. And so my alter ego, I also will go by Dr. Ohm. So
I love that.
Very
okay.
Yeah.
And so love that.
Yeah, it's the universal symbol. And so to me, what coming home really means is coming home to who you really are inside. I believe we all have a unique dharma, a unique expression, a unique way of doing things that only we can do. And sometimes it gets watered down through society or through our past or through what other people say or tell us about ourselves. So what it is really fully expressing yourself the way that you are on the inside and having your outside match what's real on the inside for you.
Well, we let people dictate who we are. And if we were just left to be who we really are, it would be a different world.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. And that's my mission to I believe even if just one person is fully expressing themselves, that's a ripple effect of allowing and giving others permission, if you will, to also be yourself and know that you're safe to do that. You're not going to get in trouble. You're not going to get hurt. Nothing bad is going to happen.
So how did this journey begin? I know that it started when you were getting over a bad relationship.
Yeah, it did. That was part of it. That's part of my story. Absolutely. Some people know this, some don't, but I'm a doctor of chiropractic. And so what I noticed when I was in chiropractic school and I was working with patients was that I would adjust them physically. But what I realized was that they still had experiences in their relationships and other areas of their life that they weren't addressing. So we could fix the physical cause, the back pain might go away or subside, but it would come right back. And I started learning about how the mind, the thought, our energy, our relationships are actually leading to our physical symptoms. And so I got fascinated with that. I started applying it to my life, to my relationships, to my body, and everything just did a complete turn. And in that moment, when I started to really experience the changes within myself, I declared and decided I wanted to get this information out to millions and millions of people so that it is widespread information.
Absolutely. And I know one thing you mentioned before is the start of that journey, right, is one thing that was one of the things that you utilized were affirmations. That's how it started. So can you go into that? How did you apply them? Did you write them out? Did you say them to yourself? What was the method, and how often, how frequently would you apply them and all that?
Absolutely. Would love to share. This is fun how you guys know so much and paid attention. That makes it really fun because it's true. Affirmations were a huge part of my journey. And so the beginning phase, I learned about how you can heal your life from Louise Hay. If you all are familiar, with Louise Hay and her work, that was the first time I ever learned or heard about affirmations. That was the first time I ever heard about our thoughts create our reality. I didn't know that. I kind of was still living in the paradigm that we are just kind of whatever cards we're dealt, or if we work really hard, that will be the way that our life goes. I didn't realize how much power we actually had. And so I learned through her work to use affirmations. And what I realized was that at first I was saying the affirmations. I am strong. I am powerful. I am fit. All of these things. And I didn't believe it at first. I was saying them and I was being hopeful.
And you know what? The universe will know that. Your body will know that.
For sure. It will feel like you're lying to yourself. And so what I did, though, this was the beautiful thing, was that I kept up with it until the body caught up. They say that when there's a tipping point, even if you 51% believe it, 49% don't. If you are on the 51%, they will start happening. And what I would do was, I was in a narcissistic relationship, and that was really weighing me down. And I could barely even walk some days. Like, I just wanted to be in bed. It was hard to even get up. And so what I had started to do was, I couldn't get myself to swim, even though I was a swimmer. So I would go to the pool and I would just walk. I would walk in the pool and I would say these affirmations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I would say these affirmations. I started going every single day. Couldn't get myself to go down yet, but I would walk and I would say them. And each day I was getting stronger, and eventually it just added up and it overflowed until I did believe those things, until the results actually did happen. And what was different this time was that normally I would be working towards losing weight or towards a goal, and I would quit before the miracle. And what I did this time was I promised myself that no matter what, I'm going to keep going until the results happened, even if it doesn't look like it's working. So the moment I kept going, even when I didn't believe or it looked like nothing was changing for about 2 months, the moment I kept going, that's when everything just started clicking into place.
Well, you look like you could be an Olympics girl, because it is so working.
I promise. I'm like, if anyone, especially with how you said, like, the body like the universe knows, like, you can't fool the universe, right? Something that's really helpful with affirmations too in the beginning, which I had learned later, is you can have a bridge affirmation. So it's just a better feeling thought than where you are. Even saying, like, I am willing to change. I am working towards being more fit, instead of just jumping right to I am more fit, where it's like, I don't believe that, and it can make you feel worse. That is something that's really helpful if you're just starting with affirmations.
Is it a lot like, you often, or at least I often hear the term when it comes to affirmations, or even just telling yourself and instilling self-confidence, is fake it till you make it. Is it similar to that? Like,
yeah, it's actually interesting. I would say it's a similar concept. And what I would say, though, is the main thing is that you believe it eventually will work. And that's the difference. Almost like you have, you're going to California, but you still have to get in the car and follow the directions or follow the roadmap, and it will lead you there. You're not at California yet, but you know that you're getting there. And to me, it's the same kind of conversation. It's not like you're just aimlessly wandering and hope it just works. You know where you're headed, but you're not there yet. That's the concept I think it most relates to.
Hey everyone, I'm Neil Trivedi. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like listening to your podcasts while you drive, go jogging, cook, and just go about your day? Subscribe and listen to us on platforms like Anchor, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Have you subscribed?
I know, Dr. Onalee, you've said one thing you have talked about a lot is letting go, right? That's a huge part of our growth. And it's easier said than done, right? It's never easy for anybody. Even with you, I know while doing my research, I came I came across this interview of yours where you were talking about even after you ended the relationship, you actually went back for a while thinking, no, I can still fix this, or maybe it'll get fixed. And then, of course, eventually you realize you came out of it. But what would you say to those people who are struggling to let go and maybe much like you at first find themselves going back to the familiar, even if that familiar territory is detrimental to their growth?
Yeah, it's such an interesting concept. It's funny that I remember that interview. I remember that experience. I remember how I felt. And what I would say is if you are letting go of something, be compassionate and accepting of the amount of times or the length of time that it takes you to do it. Sometimes we have a relapse is what I would almost call that experience, especially for me with drinking. I had a bunch of relapses. But what I would say is all of those relapses or all of those times where it was hard for me to let go or I went back to something, they all always solidified and gave me more contrast of what was that I didn't want. And sometimes it took me going back a few times to make it so clear that that is not what I want. And so the main thing I would say, if somebody is struggling with letting go of something, or it feels harder, it feels like it's taking forever, or they don't have willpower, I would say change the perspective on it and know that one, it's offering you contrast. So when you are on the other side of letting go of whatever that is, you will enjoy it 10 million times more. And two, be very accepting with where you're at, because the more that you're judging yourself or beating yourself up or criticizing yourself, making yourself wrong for going back to those things, it's actually interesting. We perpetuate it even more. We end up relapsing more, going back to that thing more, because we just want to escape that feeling of beating ourselves up. So be compassionate, accepting of yourself. And the third thing is trust the process of it. Trust the times you go back or how many times it took or however long it took, knowing that you have the pen in your hand right now. What you were saying about the past is that the past isn't real. Those other times where you tried to let go of something, that's not real. It doesn't exist. All that exists is right now. And you have the pen in your hand to write the new story moving forward. And it doesn't matter how many times in the past you failed. You can choose the new story and stick to it right now moving forward.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And cut yourself a break. I mean, you know, like you said, we have to love ourselves first, because if we don't love ourselves, really nobody else can really love us, you know, because they're not seeing the real us. This is a really good topic because I totally believe in writing. I think writing releases what is stuck in us. So can you talk about how writing helps release our fears?
Absolutely. I am a big believer in writing. And one of the things, especially if you struggle with anxiety or overthinking, or you feel like you can't get your head above water, you feel overwhelmed, you feel scattered, you feel stuck. That's how a lot of clients come to me feeling that way. One of the things to do is to get all of the thoughts, all of the feelings that are just floating around and get them onto paper. Just release. It's cathartic also. Sometimes too, not even having a reason why you're writing other than just getting things out of your head. You will start to notice that you might fill up a page or 2 or 5, and then some of the clarity and some of the next steps will start to come through. And it's obvious, but it's because you got all of the chaotic kind of feelings out onto paper and out of your head, your mind, and released, let go.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't have to
I believe
it. You don't have to do anything. You can just
talked
fold
about
it.
that on Instagram, right? I remember one of your posts where you actually advised a couple of clients of yours to actually write out their fears.
Yeah,
I just remember that post. Yeah.
No, that's good. Yeah, it's beautiful because what's so interesting is we can have these fears in the back of our mind, And they're ruling all of our decisions, and we're living in fear because of this worst case scenario that we think might happen. And what happens when you write it down, right? You write out the fear and you look at it, you realize it's actually not as scary as you might think. And you also start to then see that there's actually easy solutions, or even if that did happen, I like to ask myself all the time, then what? If that big scary fear that's running around in the back of my head does happen, then what? Oh, okay, I might not like that, but I would be okay. I could survive. Or I've already experienced that. I've already gone through it. It might not have been fun, but I'm still here. So I feel like writing it down it has you just look at it from a whole new perspective, and it doesn't have power over you anymore in the sense of it's ruling your decisions or your ability to enjoy the present moment right now, because this fear is lingering in the back of your mind. You get rid of it by looking at it and rewriting it.
Can you go over some simple like self-love practices? I know that's a huge thing in your practice and your philosophy. Daily stuff people can do to, remind themselves or that they love themselves the way they are. Just, stuff that self-love exercises, self-love practices, we just can go over 2 or 3 of them that we can all implement to make our life better overall in the long run.
Yeah, what I have all of my clients do when they come to me, whether it's a one-on-one client or somebody in my courses, one of the main things I have them do is to have some kind of morning practice or ritual, whatever they want to call it, that is very, very simple. So it could look as simple as a 5-minute meditation, writing out 3 affirmations, 3 things you're grateful for, and going on a 15-minute walk. Keeping it that simple. One of the reasons why this is a great self-love practice is because you're also teaching yourself self-discipline and self-confidence. When you do what you say that you're going to do, you start to trust yourself more. You start to know that you can handle more. You start to then believe when you say you're going to do something bigger, you will actually do it. So to me, it's a grounding, anchoring practice that encompasses so many different things that will ultimately lead to self-love when you practice it. So that would be the number one thing I highly recommend. Number 2 would be noticing how you talk to yourself. When people ask me, what does self-love mean to me? One of the main things about self-love is how you speak to yourself. So often, we are so kind and loving to other people, but when it comes to ourselves, we're beating ourselves up, we're feeling like we regret something, we're criticizing ourselves, judging ourselves. I can't believe you did that. Why are you so lazy? Shifting the narrative of what goes in your mind and be more accepting and loving and kind to yourself, just like you would to a best friend or to a young child, giving yourself that love back to you. And the moment you catch yourself not being that way, even though you know to be that way or you know better, in that moment you forgive yourself and accept yourself and know that you can choose again or you can keep doing better. There's no end to it and there's no perfection of it. You just keep being more loving and kind to yourself, and you can unconditionally do that to yourself.
That's a perfect word, forgiveness.
Definitely.
We have to forgive ourselves.
Yeah.
You did not create your chaos, but nobody's going to knock on the door and fix it for you. You either have to seek the help with someone like you, or you have to understand that, until you do something, you're going to live in chaos.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know we touched, I guess, a little bit on this earlier on, but if you could just go into a little bit more detail on what do you do because we're all human and no one's perfect, right? Not even you, even though your Instagram is, but
it is. It's pretty perfect.
When life, right. I see that. Yeah, the number of followers definitely. Every time I look at that number, I'm like, damn, that's a lot of followers. But when life is going good, as it is for you, and all of a sudden everything is fine and perfect, or not perfect, but really good. And then you hit a roadblock or an unexpected trigger comes about. These days, like seeing how far you've come from where you were and up, what do you do these days to when that happens? If something unexpectedly triggers you that you didn't see coming, or some roadblock comes about, what do you do?
I love that this has come up, because you're right. You're never going to just fully be able to avoid roadblocks, no matter how successful you are. It's always going to be relative too. There always will be something that comes up that you can't fully predict. What the difference is how you handle and navigate it. So something through my other challenges or experiences, I always ended up being okay. So I've had enough hardship or enough issues in my life or situations where I thought I wasn't going to survive it. I thought I wasn't going to get through it. I thought my heart was never going to heal. And it did. And so those started to overflow and add up and create evidence for me that when a new challenge comes, it's not different than the other challenge, in the sense of it's not going to be something I'm stuck in forever. It's temporary and it passes. So what I would say that I do now that helps me move through it quicker and allow myself to hold bigger challenges and bigger levels of happiness and success is, the moment a challenge comes or something that feels painful or uncomfortable, I allow myself to feel it. So if it's sadness, if it's anger, if it's grief, if it's loneliness, despair, I feel it. So if I need to go scream in my car, I will do that. If I need to cry on my couch, I will do that. And what happens is I sit with myself and I allow myself to have those kind of natural feelings and reactions to something that's not going my way. And I don't judge it. I'm not like, stop that crying. You shouldn't be angry. Let's move through it. No, I welcome the anger or whatever emotion. I sit with it. I breathe through it because I know that it's temporary. I know that it will pass. And as I do that, the solution even to the situation then comes to me, and I know I'm going to be okay no matter what. And so if I was to summarize all of that, I would say if something comes to me my way that feels like a challenge, or I don't know how I'm going to get through it, or a roadblock, I know that no matter what, I'm going to be okay, even if it doesn't look or feel like it in the moment.
God, what a great answer. Seriously. Wow. Really? Okay, where's that pen? Okay, wait. No. So this is what I've been dying to bring up. And I had mentioned it earlier, but it's that uck boy with an F.
Yeah.
Okay. You have the best, I don't want to call it an opinion, but the best advice on getting them out of your life. What do you want to tell the women that are sitting next to their uck boy watching this and he doesn't know?
He's not tuned in.
Yeah.
What I would say is I was stuck in patterns over and over and over again, always thinking that it's the person. I want to blame this guy. 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 And it wasn't until I had a profound realization that one of my therapists helped me come to the conclusion was that I kept saying, I'm attracting all of these guys, these uck boys. I don't get it. Like, it's not that you're attracting them, because you're also attracting very nice, kind men. The problem is you're attracted to the other kind of people like
uck boys. Yeah.
Yes. So,
the bad boy.
The bad boy. It was that something within me is attracted to that, which also is actually my greatest gift, is that I can shift what is attracted to that. I can work on that. And that is what my work around this is. Healing and clearing and releasing, changing the stories and the past and the patterns that are causing you to be attracted to that. So you can rewire your brain, your subconscious, be attracted to someone who you actually want or who would actually be a good fit for you. But it starts with you. The more that I keep attracting the same guy over and over again, the longer you stay stuck in it, The more you give your power away, which you can't change it because you just keep it.
Mm-hmm.
When you come back to yourself, come home to yourself and do the inner work, you can then change what you decide you are attracted to and what you're available for and what you tolerate. I had gone to my internship one day and I came home and the guy I was dating,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
he tells me he's moving out. And I was like, when? He was like, I already did. him and his friend, when I was gone for my internship that day, there was no argument, there was no fight, there was no discussion. Just came and moved stuff, and that happened. So
And you know what? You're
yeah.
better without him, right?
Yes. So that actually was what sparked me to get into researching and learning about narcissistic relationships, because I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know what it was. And I got so fascinated with it after this. And it's such a blessing, right? Because now I help so many people with these kinds of relationships. But I always say, in hindsight, and I'm a big believer that God did for me what I wouldn't do for myself. I didn't have the courage to end the relationship, even though my intuition, my body was like going off saying something was wrong. I kept trying to convince myself that no, he's the one, or he loves me, or that's how relationships are. And I was convincing myself, and I would have never broken up with him. And so something like that needed to happen for me to get out of that relationship. And I look back and I'm like, that was the greatest thing that could have ever happened for so many reasons. So finding the silver lining out of an experience like that.
I wasn't planning on asking this, but now that you mentioned, you said that, you know, your intuition was giving you signs and warning signs when someone is in an especially narcissistic abusing relationship, because physical is easy to spot, right? It's obviously physical as contact, body, for physical pain. That's easy to see, but narcissistic abuse can be difficult, especially if someone has never experienced that or is experiencing that for the first time in a relationship. What are some of the signs or things that people should look out for or maybe listen to more closely when it's happening to them?
Yeah, I love this because I would love to get more awareness around this. I'll give an example with what I felt. What I would, that gut feeling or that drop in my stomach, feeling like this person is lying to me. Like that knowing something is off, something it doesn't feel right. When you're in a healthy relationship, you don't get those feelings. But you know that drop, that pit in your stomach where you clench or you get tight. For me personally, I was a lot of yeast infections and a lot of UTIs repeated. That to me was a big thing that I just kept ignoring. But a big thing, doing a lot of research on this and with my clients too, is that if you're trying all the things, you're trying different workouts, you're trying different diets, you're literally doing all that you know to do, but you can't lose the weight or reduce the bloat or the inflammation in your body, that usually is a sign that there's something going on with your relationship, that somebody is draining or sucking your energy out of you, which is then affecting all of your hormones. And so that's actually a huge one. When you're trying to do all the things and nothing's working, that's when you want to look at the relationships. But one of the biggest things I will say that's coming to me right now is notice how you feel after a conversation with this person. Do you feel disempowered? Do you feel like you're crazy? Do you feel like you're doubting yourself? Do you feel like they might have said some loving words and sugarcoated it being like, I love you so much? And then in reality, like there was a lot of like backhanded jabs, or like, notice how you feel walking away from that conversation. Do you feel worse or do you feel better?
Trust your gut.
Yeah.
Trust your gut. It really does have a brain.
It does. Your gut is talking, your heart is talking to you, your anxiety is talking to you, your inflammation is talking to you.
Thank you for tuning in this week, and a huge thank you to Dr. Onalee Makam for coming on and showing us and telling us that no matter how bad it gets, we can always find that last bit of hope and use it to come back home to ourselves. Be sure to hit like on this video and subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode. Thank you everyone once again, and we will see you right here next week at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Have a good one.